Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Bertie Leroux Live. I am your host, Ivan Fillion, and I'm speaking to Bertie Leroux and picking his brain on a lot of different things. And I'm very excited about our topic for today. Good afternoon, Bertie. How are you doing?
I am doing very well as always. Thank you very much, Ivan. And yes, excited to be challenged by you again, yet again.
I love it, and I love the energy that you have today. Very, very cool. And just want to say hello to our audience. Thank you so much for listening and watching. And just want to put something special up for you there. Just want you to know that if you find anything valuable, please feel free to share it with anybody that you think it might be valuable. You could tag someone in the comments, or you could even post your question below. We'd love to answer your questions and get you involved in the show. Bertie, just quickly, there's always someone that watches your show for the first time. Wouldn't you quickly introduce yourself and what do you do?
Thank you very much, Ivan. Yes, as you've heard, I'm Bertie Leroux. I'm a transformational coach and a thought leading mentor and international public speaker. What I do is to transform and inform and create and develop new perspectives in each and every one that I meet up, whether it's a business, whether it's an entrepreneur, whether it's an individual, whether it's a family. There's always room to be even better than you at the moment. And that is my challenge and that is my passion.
I'm very glad you opened up with that, Bertie, because what I spoke to you about just before we started this live broadcast, I want to pick your brain today on the topic of new things. And I'm going to make some statements. The one is there's an ancient writing that says there's nothing new under the sun. And that's been adopted by a lot of modern poets and writers. And if we reference that, we got to ask this question: Is there really nothing new, or are we just on a road of discovery? Let's start there, and I don't want you to lead into the whole conversation that we had, but let's just unpack that for a little bit. Do you think new things are emerging, or are we just discovering things that are already there?
You know, it's interesting that you start with this angle to the discussion. I believe that karma is very strong out there. If you think about something which is brand new by your perspectives, and you look around you the next minute, then everybody knows about it. So I'm convinced that there's more people working simultaneously on the same thought without even knowing each other, whether they are working in China or in Europe or in Americas. A lot of things happen simultaneously. Some has got the energy and has got the resources and they drive it and it becomes a public domain knowledge, skill, or product. And others have thought about it and put it in a shelf. So the concept of there's nothing new is that something exists and we are always able to improve on it or to change it, to apply different angles to it, and we can relate a lot of stories about that. And that's maybe why they say there is nothing new, because the newness disappears so quickly.
Good. Bertie, one thing that I think in our relationship that developed is the. I'm glad you mentioned what you just said. Is in everything that I know of your environment and your construct, you are a person that takes something, and for you it might be new, and I think that's a good jumping off point. For you, it might be something new. Like, for instance, the brain profiling that you started doing a couple of years ago, and now recently taking this concept of vision with imagination. And you're a person that takes something like that and then goes and really goes deep into that and researching it and unpacking it. And what I love about your process is you go and you develop these thoughts and these approaches, etc. And so I think that's the frame of reference that we're using and looking at here. So taking that premise that I opened up with, I want to share some concepts with the audience that I already shared with you. And that's this concept of there's nothing new, really. And so for me, are we discovering new things? That's what we just spoke about. And now let's talk about, I think the big thing is consistency in one's life. And I've got a couple things that I think I want to maybe unearth with you that we can have a conversation on. We live in a society that consumes content like this, and there's a lot of different thought leaders out there, but they don't have any impact and they don't make any grounds because, as you mentioned to me before, unlike you, a lot of people only have one thing to say, and they say that over and over and over and over. So there's no depth in that. But as a society that we seem like we're open to development and learning, and there's so much information out there that we never really take something, or only successful people would take something and then actually go and work with the material. So talk to us a little bit about the risk of shiny object syndrome, if you will. Always looking for that shiny object, that new thing, and then discovering that, but I never spend enough time with it, unpacking it, developing it, implementing it, that it actually brings any value to my life.
You know what when you were talking, I was relating the whole concept of the uniqueness with which we are born, but then we spend the rest of our life to fit in because society is forcing us into a certain mold, an expectation that we need to respond and act in a certain way. And whether whoever sets that parameters of that society that defines the norms into which we play, that is one of the problems that every one of us suffers from, because we were born unique, gifted, and actually born so unique that we should stand out in the crowd. So if we followed that pattern, then the creativity that we were born with, let's call it 80, 85%, 88% creativeness that we were born with, that is through this molding into a certain set box of standards of expectations, we end up in our early 20s to be single figures in terms of creativity. Now, the learned people will say that creativity can be taught and can be self-taught and learned again, because you must just trust yourself to be able to expand on what exists. And this following the brightest star and following the opportunities is also then therefore linked to your ability to see beyond what the general person out there sees. And that is where the concept also of beyondness comes in, the ability to take something where everybody else has stopped and continue with it. So the success, therefore, in that lies in, as you said, consistency, but also persistence. And I often get confronted by little pictures that I see where there's two people digging a hole on the, looking for diamonds. And the one will find the diamonds, and the guy next to him has found nothing. But then when the moment the other person leaves this hole where he found the diamond, he jumps into that hole and starts digging. But he had no idea how close he was to many more diamonds in his own hole. But we don't persist. So we jump from one thing to the next, and therein lies the biggest concern and the biggest problem when we talk about new things. Because if we think of the finding out of the light bulb. We know that it took him more than 1,000 failures before he was successful. So at the end of this rainbow is the pot of gold, but we run out of patience because we don't persist. And that in itself is one of our biggest problems. So we're chasing the bright stars. And if anybody were to stop us and saying, what are you doing? You will not be able to explain really the why. Because you just ended up being chasing that bright star and you've got no purpose, no passion behind it. And you'll keep on chasing that for the rest of your lives.
Badly, we've got a saying in some of the organizations that I'm a part of, and we like to say a couple things. So I'm going to share two concepts, then I want your thoughts on that. The one is it's better to do 6 things 1,000 times than do 1,000 things 6 times. So let me park that one and just ask, what are your thoughts on that?
It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. Rather be good at something than be good at to be good at a lot of things, but never achieve success with it. So behind you lie a lot of unfinished business. And I fully subscribe to that. Rather do 6 things better than everything else. So that
I had
no shot.
I had an interview last year with someone from the US, and he said something really profound. And I won't say it's I think it's a quote that he picked up, but it makes for me. He said, multitasking is really doing a lot of things poorly. And so at the end of the day, it's where do we focus and what do we look at? I wanna reference something that's close to what I think your disciplines and what you're used to. The reference in the story that I have references more the American football culture and what they do in training, but I think we can probably apply it to rugby as well. And it's a training exercise called wind sprints. And the story goes that there was this coach who was supposed to take over and take a team from losing to winning. And so he said to them, okay, here's where we're going to start. Is I want you guys to do wind sprints. I want you to, and they had drills like going up and down the field and just testing their kind of persistence and their perseverance and also what is the word I'm looking for? It's not their health, but just making sure that they get to test their fitness, I guess. And he had them do that over and over and over and over, and certain things that he had them do like drills. And the guys and the assistant coach came back to him and said, when are we going to actually do the different plays and practice that? And when are we going to work out our things and practice, and work out, watch our opponents' games and those kind of things. They wanted to do the smart things. And he said to them, just trust me and keep on doing this. And they kept on doing the wind sprints. And, a couple of weeks before their main game, their first game, they had a horrible season before. They won their first game, but they didn't just win that. They had that discipline that they were doing wind sprints, and they also won the whole series. And they realized that, listen, it's doing the simple and the mundane things over and over and over that got us developing muscle memory and got us working on technique and basics and foundations. And that is where the strength comes, because then you can be creative and do certain things because you've got the foundations right. And I'm assuming that you can relate that to rugby as well. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. I firmly believe in the principle, because if you can't get the basics right, what do you fall back onto? And often teams will not be successful in terms of their match statistics at the end of the season only and solely because they didn't do the basics right. It doesn't help you have the most phenomenal strategies and plans laid out, and you analyze your opposition to the T, and you can't do the basics right. Like playing cricket and you don't catch, you don't hold your catches. Catches win matches. So it doesn't help what you do. You've got to do the basics right. And when it's rugby and whether it's American football, if it's soccer, if the ball doesn't cross the right poles and end up in the right net, there's nothing else you can do. Nobody will walk around and say that team is brilliant. I mean, they've got the nicest players, the best kitted out, but they lost the game. It doesn't apply. And in life, it's the same thing. And anyway, you were talking about the gentleman saying that multitasking breeds basically bad results. I would like to say and park to the side and say procrastination is the problem, not multitasking. Because if you're multitasking, you can still do a lot of things. Because if you got that kind of mind that needs to be involved with a lot of things almost simultaneously, because that energizes you. That will give you the energy and the concentration to do the things right and complete the jobs on time. But procrastination has got the problem that it ends up in the lower drawer and never get done at all. So, some people say they can multitask. Others just have it as an excuse and so forth. So I think that to a very large extent depends on your brain profile. Whether you like doing that or not. Some people prefer, left brain people prefer to do a few things simultaneously, and they will do that very good. And that's why they look less creative. But in that focused, they almost tunnel vision of them, they are as creative as the right brain, chaotic minded person with a lot of things simultaneously that just now look more creative because they've got a lot more balls in the air, but they are both equally creative given the opportunity. So we shouldn't label that. But to get back to your sport example, to be fitter and stronger is really key, because you will outlast everybody else. And that is key to the game. And if, as you say, if you develop that sort of pattern in your head, and when you are tired, you just still follow the same set ways of playing the game and thinking about the game, I promise you will be much more successful than the others. It may take you a season, because you need to instill that into all your players, because some players doesn't believe in that. They would like to put their hands in their pockets and just strategize. Others want to be fit and strong because they know that is the foundation of good sports, solid defense or whatever. Yeah.
What we're talking about here is I think the message is stop jumping to every new thing. Find something, stick to it, be consistent, and go through it. Bertie, I think if we say that, the question is then, do I find a mentor, someone that I know is good in the subject that I'm interested in? Let's say I like launching stuff, so it's natural for me to go and listen to, connect to the platforms of, join the webinars of, join the programs of people that are launching new businesses, launching programs, etc. Do you think that's good advice, that you go and you actually go deep into something, find a mentor? I have about 2 or 3 different ones in different areas, but I listen to them over and over and over. Sometimes I listen old material again, especially if you have mentors that are constantly creating new content, like you and I am. We are constantly developing new content, pushing our communities to the next level. and you need someone that's going to kind of stimulate you in that way. So do you think finding a mentor is important? And what is the criteria that I need to look at this is a good mentor for me to follow? Is it consistency in communicating, developing, putting content out there? Do they need to have a certain level of success? Do they need to be just a little bit more successful than I am? Or should they be out of my reach? How do I find the mentor, and what's the criteria that I need to look at?
It might shock you. My answer would be no. Because if you want to create new things, it means you need to form new paths, find new answers. A mentor is important, undoubtedly so. But the mentor can only share with you what they know, what they've experienced. So if you use the mentor to help you with the basics and with building the foundation, it is fine. But you need then to move on very quickly and very soon to find a coach. Because the coach will allow you to bring your own to the fore. In other words, from your core brings the opportunities and the explanations and the new ideas and the concepts out from yourself. It is not something that gets instilled in you against you wish to test what you're bringing forward. In other words, needing the mentor to guide you. Coaching is different. Coaching is basically allowing the coachee, that one with the ideas that he doesn't know, the concept of I don't know what I do know. And I don't know that I do know these things. So it's important that the coach draw that out. So I set the parameters of where I'm heading, maybe a direction that I don't really know anything about. But there's a feeling, there's a belief, there's a concept, there's something that dabbles in my mind. I've read a lot of articles and I've read a lot of books and I've listened to a lot of people, and all of a sudden, all that information, all that knowledge has started to come together, almost like when I found the concept and it brought my whole ideas together, the concept of the disciplines of thought. All my confusion now of what I want to focus on and the uncertainties was brought towards the funnel, and it said to me, you could summarize that with the key words that says disciplines of thought. So the mentor is important. And I mean, you always know that I said a mentor by definition, as it done a long time ago, before the coaching concept came to the fore, was a good mentor can be the same person or different people. That is a coach, a trainer, a sponsor, and a devil's advocate. 4 elements within mentorship: coach, a trainer, a sponsor, and a devil's advocate. And in short, the coach, is the person that teaches you the terms and the conditions and the rules of the game. The trainer is responsible to make you fit and strong to play that game. The sponsor is the person that buy into your abilities, concepts, and ideas and carry it forward. Okay? Almost like a representative out there, like a sports manager as we see it today. That sponsor. And also the guy that gives the finances that you can spend more time in developing your ideas and your concept. And the devil's advocate is really that person that tests whether you're en route to follow your dreams. So that just your checks and balances. So that's the mentor. And there's a reason why I'm saying it, because you started the discussion, you're saying you want to do something new and you go in a direction and try a lot of things maybe. And I'm saying that to a certain extent is the concept that is behind the mentor. Because I can look forward and know where I want to go, but there's always a lot of distractions. There's always a lot of noise that can take me away from my goal. Okay. And opportunities that I think is opportunities that I don't know whether that is going to take me closer to my goal. And that's what I will take to my devil's advocate that I've appointed, that mentor that I can test this concept and idea and say, listen, this opportunity came my way. Should I take it? Yes or no? Will it take me closer to my goal? Yes or no? Okay. So that's the checks that I need. But if I turn around and I face 45 degrees that way, then my peripheral vision changes. And if I follow my peripheral vision to the edge, there's already a lot of noise out there. I need to focus. I need to I define my purpose linked to my passions and go that way. And within that, the new concept will come forward and the new ideas, because they are almost ideas and conceptualized out of this focused view that I have of where I'm going, what my vision is, and that helps me to work within the new ideas. The moment I move away from that, I can move further and further away, and eventually completely lose track and direction. And before I notice, I'm completely off track in a different tangent where I've actually focused this way. So the mentor's got a role to share, but must understand the mentor is not going to take you to those new ideas. You need somebody else to get it out of you, to help you to put it together, not their ideas like a mentor do. But that, for me as a coach, is one of the biggest challenges when people ask me to coach them the how. I'm comfortable with the why. I'm comfortable with the what, because that is that the challenge is there. You're still unearthing. But if you ask me how, it's easy to fall into a trap and start mentoring instead of coaching. Personally, that's one of my biggest challenges as a coach.
Okay. You unpacked what a mentor is, and in that is, you said, coaching, sponsor, trainer, devil's advocate. In your profile, you are positioned as mentor and coach. Is it possible to kind of differentiate between those two? And can you explain, just focusing on those two roles, what those two roles in a person's development is? What will the mentor do, and what does the coach do?
I think when I'm uncertain where I'm going, what is required would be to establish some kind of the point of departure, some knowledge base, skills base from which I can develop. Okay, so that I can identify whether I enjoy athletics, in other words, a no ball sport, or a ball sport, just to use two examples. And then if you then focus on, I love playing with balls, then you will go through the process of establishing whether the ball is as big or small, a golf ball or a pool ball, right to a rugby ball or a soccer ball. So that foundation is there. So initially, yes, you'll need some mentoring, some guidance through these four elements that I've discussed it. But once you've got that, and that gives you the direction, that's when you start moving into coaching environment, so you can focus and go down the path. It will also set the pace of your development. Am I running, walking, or crawling? Okay, so that's important.
Okay. When we're talking about a mentor, often someone is in a mentor relationship. And for me, a mentor is, you watch what they do, you can ask them questions, and they guide you in the process. Sometimes in your development, and this is maybe when the other kind of going to new things comes in, sometimes the person outgrows your mentor. So do you then fly on your own? Because I know that you love the eagle concept. Do I now go fly on my own? Or do I need to find another mentor that's better than the mentor that I followed before?
I would buy into that, because once again, understand that the mentor may impede your creativity and therefore your growth in terms of creating new things. But the mentor will teach you the short roads to get there. In others, if I want to become, let's say I want to become a teacher, and I go to a mentor to help me to reach that goal as a teacher, basic teacher. So he will go through the process of what subject I need to do at school and why I should do that and how I should be focusing, which university, college I should be going to, what kind of subjects I should be taking. And then when I enter into teaching, still mentoring me and helping me how to position myself to get to a certain goal and a certain point of my development quicker, that I don't have to take the long road. So he helps me to focus, the mentor, and I go with his guide or her guidance, obviously, to get there quicker. But then this mentor can only be a mentor in terms of his own skill base and knowledge base. So yes, you're right. You might outgrow this mentor and move on to somebody else. It's as if you've got a sport coach at school level. There's a time when you take the highest step into provincial, into international sport. There is a step. If the coach don't move with you, the coach will keep you back. So you must understand that mentor you'll sometimes have to say goodbye to. You can still use that mentor as a devil's advocate. Remember, there's 4 elements. There's 4 pillars here, and you can appoint a mentor in each of those. The mentor doesn't and shouldn't be all 4 of them, because then it doesn't help much. You don't get the insights of the whole concept. The trainer and the coach and the sponsor and the devil's advocate, they play different roles. So as a mentor, you can use them and you can keep the original mentor, but you move into something different, and the coach come into play, teaching you new tricks, new ways, expanding your horizon, expanding your ability, and draw it out of you, the whys and the whats. So that is and that to me is the clear distinction between mentorship and coaching. Because
I think if you have yourself go and develop, I think when you have a mentor and you outgrow them and develop out of that mentoring relationship, I think you could. I think one thing that you alluded to there is you'll still keep the relationship, and if they're a good mentor, they'll be proud of what you became. But as a mentor yourself, you get 2 kinds of mentors. One you'll outgrow, and one mentor who is also constantly developing, so they are always ahead of you. So for anybody that's listening and that's kind of that is a mentor for others, do you think we have a responsibility to keep developing ourselves so that we keep those that we are mentoring or our mentees on their toes and we are always ahead? Or is it okay to be at a certain standard? You don't necessarily have to always be the best or be better.
Absolutely. The mentor needs to grow and develop, because if he or she is not doing that, they are not just simply not good enough. Because at the end of the day, what we actually need from a mentor is that continuous development, because as they develop, they share that and assist the mentee with their development. If they stay behind, they will stay behind the times that we live in now is so challenging, and things are changing so rapidly that we just need to be in a constant learning environment. There's not enough time to sit back and say, I'm good enough. I can say as a person, I'm good enough. But as a businessman, as a sportsman, etc., I can never be good enough. I must aspire to be better every single day.
Okay, so let me mention this. To be successful and to not always be going after shiny things, you'll need to have some characteristics, and those are patience, which I think is undervalued, because I'm the same type of person. I had to learn patience because I get bored really quickly. And so in some things you have to be patient. You have to work with the processes. I have a saying where I say without process, there's no progress. And so you have to kind of submit to that. There's also resiliency. So even when things get tough, when I speak to people about their passions and their purpose and their calling, when things get tough, you get to ask this question, like, is this really what I'm supposed to do? Am I sure I'm on the right path? And I'll get back to that just now. And also persistence, like keeping on going, etc. So with consistency and all those things I mentioned being a good value to have, and working in a certain field or doing a certain thing or developing a certain skill, how do I know that I'm right and that I'm on the right path?
Glad you ask that, and glad you make the statement, because that is exactly where the mentor comes in. Because in appointing a mentor, one of the first things that two of you will clarify is where you're heading and why. What is your why? So that person knows exactly what your dreams. Because remember, that's also the role of the sponsor. Because they know where you're going, they are the person that getting the foot in the door for you to get the opportunities that they see, that you may have missed or just wasn't around to do. So there should never be doubt where you're going when you have a mentor, because the mentor is that checks and balances in your life. And I just want to clarify something here, because we're talking about these subjects now, and maybe somebody out there is listening and saying, but I'm at school, I'm a scholar, or I'm a professional accountant, or I'm a CEO of a company, and all those kind of things. How does it matter to me whether I'm on the right track or not? I've got the rank, I've got the salary, I've got the house, the car, the family. So I'm actually extremely successful. My bank balance tells me that, and the tiles on my roof supports that. So, and what does it all mean? It means that you should never be enough. We just mentioned that. You should always be focused on doing better, because if you're doing better for yourself, everybody around you will equally do better for themselves, because you will set the pace and set the scene for growth and development. You may not know it, but your success, your positive notes, your energies rubs off to everybody around you. So we each have got a role, and if we're so focused and we have this mentor that keep us on the right path for the right reasons at the right pace, then everything around us will sort of follow this flow. And there's always said that if you want to be successful, surround yourself with successful people. If you want to be rich, surround yourself with rich people, because they will rub off. So you fall into that path, and in that space, and in that sort of driving force towards success. That is important. It's not that you are, little pieces out here, and every now and again you pluck into this right road going to somewhere. No. That's what I'm saying. So what we are talking about here, and I want to emphasize that once again, this applies to every single one out there, because the new things applies to an accountant equally to an IT developer, equal to a mechanic of a car. It applies to all of us. New things. To the mechanic, there's always a new car with new technology. Ask Tesla. So there's always a learning opportunity and an opportunity for you to grow. That is, if you want to. And if you struggle with that, get somebody to help you to instill the belief that you have got it inside you, and then you move from there and you have a coach that can bring the newness, the unknown out of you here and now, and you can start living that. That's why I talk about a vision with imagination, because I believe that we all have the potential. We simply don't know that. So if I can create a vision, which is impossible, I will pull myself towards the future because I'm there already. I'm living my life in that sphere already, in that successful environment, and I'm starting to feel and creating it. And as I'm living it, I'm creating my own future. Whilst if I'm here and now and I'm on my own, all of a sudden I don't have the money to buy a book to guide me that I can learn from, or pay somebody to be my mentor or be my coach. You've got to take the first step. Where do you start? Where you're at now. And now you're going to take little baby steps from where you're at. That's a slow process of development. The mentor will speed you up, and the coach will allow you to go where you never dreamt you can be and start pulling you towards that. It's a different mindset. Sorry, Ivan, I just wanted to put that into perspectives, that we're just not talking about newness and new ideas. It applies to every single one of us, because I'm unique, gifted to stand out in the crowd and not just to fit in. And my newness will create my future for me, but I need to allow it to come in there. It can't lie hidden here in me or in here. I need to get it out there. I need to trust that I've got solutions that nobody's heard about. We start the discussion with that there's nothing new. There's always an ability to take what exists, to change it into something new. And this lies within you already.
Yeah, I believe, I think a lot of things that we perceive as new are just undiscovered for us. But I think new things, like you said now, comes out of us taking existing things and developing it into something better. I'll tell you one thing that I'm contrite with. I'm in two minds about is, I know that I have certain things that I'm good at and that I'm interested in. So when a lot of things come across my desk, I'll get certain emails. I will get new thoughts. I'll get emails. I'll see posts on social media, etc. And I actually don't even open those things, because I know what I'm supposed to do. I know what I'm interested in, and so I would love to go and open up something new and go and read about it and delve deep into it. But I don't, because I know, and you probably feel the same way. I only have so much time. So I've got to focus on doubling down on my strengths, taking what I'm interested in, what I'm good at, and developing that. Because if I now go into a new management style or a new leadership thought or whatever, it's good to know about those things, but I don't necessarily go that way. For instance, I'll get emails by a Eric Rotholm or something, and it's on leadership, and I'm like, my leadership mentor, even if it's removed, is John Maxwell. I listen to his things, and I engaged about 2 or 3 years ago. I engaged with someone and saying, this is something new and it's better than John Maxwell. I'm like, but John Maxwell's been around for 30 years, and John Maxwell has proven track record, etc., etc. And so there's the other thing. This being aware and careful of new things, and it. Again, let's end off with that. There's this challenge of, where do I decide I'm going to take a new thing and I'm going to develop it? Because again, there's a lot of new things every day. And you and I have the same problem. Our inboxes are full of stuff with new things or other things, and so for me, I can't, like what we're doing now, that's something that I like. That's something that I love. It's something that I spend my time on, thinking about, preparing for, doing, etc. Um, I can't really take new things that are completely left field and go and spend time on that. I've got to spend time and start looking at expertising on the things that I'm interested in. So if we take something like, that's why I'm spending time on vision with imagination, because I think vision is crucial and it's important. And with there's my frame of reference are ancient texts. So those texts say, without vision, without a lack of knowledge, people perish. Without vision, people perish. You got to write your vision down, etc. And so I struggle with I could see new things as they pop up. How do you discern that? Listen, I've got to pay attention to this, and I've got to investigate it and spend time on that, versus things that you'd rather not spend time on. So for you personally, where do you draw the line? Where do you say, I'm going to spend time on this and I'm not going to spend time on that?
It's often quite a challenge, because opportunities are sometimes very colorful. It crosses your path and you get distracted. But there's always time to follow those once you've achieved your interim goals, that is leading up to the vision that you set for yourself. And that is why I always talk about the equation: passion plus purpose equals prosperity. Prosperity defined as success, whether it's monetary or whatever the case may be. But if you start with that, with money as your from your outset, then it will be so easy to distract you, because if somebody is going to give you 10% more, you're going to jump to it, and another one give you 10%, and you're totally confused. But if you follow your passion, follow your heart, okay, and follow your purpose, therefore, you will be energized and driven towards achieving that set focus, and you will be much quicker in solving that and reaching that end goal than if you are believing that everything around you is also something that's important for your path. Once again, that's where the mentor comes in, the role of the devil's advocate. So it's extremely difficult, and I think we all fall in that trap, that it looks so good, it looks so great. I mean, you simply can't believe, why didn't I think about it? And then you pursue it only to find out after a couple of days or weeks or months, it was pie in the sky. It was a vision of mist, and it disappeared, and it set you back, because all of a sudden you moved away from your focus. Just focus and persist in doing this first time. And yes, there may be a couple of things, balls in the air, but they still on track to the same direction. If you have 360-degree balls all in the sky, you're going to be confused and you're going to get nowhere. You'll spin like a top in just around and get absolutely nowhere. There will be no energy. It will be a consumption of energy, because a lot of those things will just draw your energy. If you just get yourself down to, let me just focus. What am I, not necessarily what am I good at? That might be a dichotomy. What I'm good at, the focus should be, what do I love doing? And if what I love doing is what I'm good at, where you may end up, but not necessarily start off with, that's perfect. That's where you want to. That's what you want to be. That you are good at what you love doing, and I love doing what I'm good at, and you'll be immensely successful. Might not be your bank is full of money, but that's not important to you in that case, because your prosperity definition is totally different to a person with a lot of money in the bank. but you are alive. You've grown in stature. You're a happy person, and you are pulling people down your path of success. And if you look around you and you look back and you see the smiling faces, you know, I am good enough and I'm doing very, very well. And that should be our goal. Live that purpose. Set the scene, set the pace, set the path for others. Thank you very much. Thanks for listening. I'm certain we can continue for another couple of hours on this subject.
Perfect. Yes. Thank you so much, Bertie, for your time and unpacking this concept for us. I want to thank the listeners as well. If you have listened all the way up to here, we want to thank you for your time. And again, if you have any questions, please post them below. Let us know your thoughts, or share this with someone who may find value in this discussion. We'd really appreciate it. And thank you, Bertie. I wish you a great week further, and looking forward to our session again next week.
Thank you very much. Always love being here. And thanks for